Hello, this is Melanie Gorelnik, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the December 10th, 2025 issue of the Toronto Sun on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The first story is Three Women Sought for Violent Assault Near Toronto Nightclub by Chris Doucette. Three women are sought for allegedly assaulting two females leaving a downtown Toronto nightclub last month. And investigators have released suspect images, hoping the public can help identify the trio. In a news release Wednesday, Toronto police said the wanted women were in a vehicle when they attacked the victims in the area of King Street West and Portland Street, east of Bathurst Street, around 2:45 a.m. on November 23rd. The two female victims were walking in the area after leaving a nightclub when they, quote, became involved in a verbal dispute with three females who were in a vehicle stopped on King Street West, police said. The three females allegedly assaulted the victims and pulled them partially into the vehicle. The driver of the vehicle then accelerated northbound onto Portland Street, dragging the two victims a short distance, police allege, adding both victims suffered non-life-threatening injuries. The trio then fled the scene. All three women are described as 18 to 25 years old. The first is described as having a heavy build, long black hair, and brown eyes, while the second woman has a medium build, long black hair, and brown eyes. The third wanted woman has a small build, long black hair, and brown eyes. Anyone with information regarding the identity or whereabouts of any of the three suspects in the images released by investigators is asked to call police at 416-808-1400 or Crime Stoppers anonymously at 416-222-8477. There is a photo of the three women. They're in a kind of dark gray colored car with the window down, and they have the dark hair and dark eyes, and they're wearing lots of lashes or mascara. Photo courtesy of Toronto Police. That story was Three Women Sought for Violent Assault Near Toronto Nightclub by Chris Doucette. The next story is Maple Leafs Rivals Top List of NHL's Most Punchable Faces, Rat on the Ice by Dan Balicki. The Atlantic Division appears to have cornered the NHL market on something in particular. And it's not just Stanley Cup final appearances over the past 7 seasons. No, the Atlantic Division also happens to be the home of the most punchable faces in the NHL, as voted by players across the league. In the Athletics annual player poll, released Tuesday, it was revealed that 8 of the top 13 players to receive votes reside in the Atlantic, including the top 3 vote getters. Nick Cousins of the Ottawa Senators retained his spot on top of the list, receiving 24.3% of the 107 votes cast, with several players sharing not-so-glowing reviews of the forward's play. He's an effective rat on the ice, one player said. He's good at what he does. He's a diver. I hate divers, another player told the outlet. I can't stand him, a third player said. I heard he's a good guy, but I'd still love to punch him in the face. The reigning Cup champion Florida Panthers have the next top vote getters in Brad Marchand at 19.6% and Matthew Tkachuk, who has yet to play this season while recovering from surgery to repair a torn adductor muscle and sports hernia, garnered 10.3% of the vote. Everybody says he's a great guy, but it sucks playing against him, one player said of Marchand, while another commented that Tkachuk is, quote, an ass in front of the net. Florida's Conn Smythe Trophy winner Sam Bennett also made the list, with a 2.8% of votes. Other players in the top 13 who ply their trade in the Atlantic were Montreal's Brendan Gallagher, Detroit's Dylan Larkin, Boston's Nikita Zadorov, and Ottawa's Tim Stutzel. Of the many players receiving votes, there was just one Maple Leaf on the list, Scott Lofton, who received a single tally. Perhaps the most interesting player to make the list was Colorado Avalanche superstar defenseman Cale Makar, who received a single vote. Just because he's really good, and it pisses me off that we have to play against him, one player said. The survey was conducted by The Athletic from September 19 to November 30th, 2025. There is a picture of Ottawa Senators forward Nick Cousins, who was voted to have the most punchable face. He is on the ice rink. He's wearing some kind of white helmet. It says 21 on it. His jersey is white with red and black on it. And he's got a big kind of glove on and he's pointing it at the camera. He's got brown eyes and a brown mustache. Photo courtesy of Getty Images. That story was Maple Leafs Rivals Top List of NHL's Most Punchable Faces. Rat on the Ice by Dan Balicki. The next story is Canada Adds 4 Groups to Federal Terror List by Brian Pacifiume. Ottawa. Canada will be the first nation to add a concerning cadre of child predators and extortionists to its list of prescribed terror groups. The 764 Network is an ideologically motivated violent extremist or IMVE group that actively preys on children online, targeting victims on social media in order to coerce them into harming themselves, others, or family pets, grooming them to either radicalize them and target others, or blackmailing children via sextortion. Online extortion terror groups listed. According to a 2024 RCMP news release, 764 members actively recruit new victims via applications like Discord or Telegram. Key motivators for members of these groups are to spread their ideology, gain notoriety, collect extreme violent online content, and rise in status within their groups, the news release said. Also, finding their way onto the list was fellow IMVE group Maniac Murder Cult, an international racially motivated group of extremists founded in Ukraine that subscribes to a self-professed nihilistic National Socialism, which among their targets include immigrants, racial minorities, and LGBT. Last month, Georgian national Mikhail Chikivishvili pleaded guilty to soliciting hate crimes and sending instructions to make bombs and ricin in a U.S. federal court in New York City. Chikivishvili, a maniac murder cult leader who was extradited from Moldova this past May to stand trial, admitted to recruiting people to carry out a mass terror attack in New York City, as well as other plots to target American Jews and poison children's candy. A third IMVE group to make the list was Terrorgram Collective, a far-right, decentralized group of neo-fascists who largely operate on Telegram. Terrorgram Collective channels are often used by affiliated groups such as Atomwaffen Division and The Base, both of which were added to Canada's terror list in 2021. Also added to the list was Islamic State Mozambique, a full-fledged branch of the notorious terror group ISIS. Threat posed by online extremism, a real concern. Minister. In a statement, Public Safety Minister Gary Anandasangri said the threat posed by ideologically motivated extremism is very real, whether it's online or in the real world. The groups we have just listed prey upon people who are at risk, especially our youth, and they must be stopped, he said in the statement. By listing these groups, we have more powerful and effective tools to take action and thwart their efforts to incite violence and promote hate. Canada's list of prescribed terror organizations now sits at 90. Recent additions include the India-based Bishnoi Gang, various Mexican drug cartels, the Houthis, Ansarallah, and BC-based Islamic terrorist group and sham charity Samidoun, who remained an active not-for-profit corporation under Innovation, Science, and Economic Development Canada, or ISED, for nearly 2 years after making it onto the list. That story was Canada Adds 4 Groups to Federal Terror List by Brian Pacifiume. The next story is Man Accused of Unprovoked Attacks on 5 Females in Toronto by Chris Doucette. A 24-year-old man is accused of assaulting 5 female strangers on multiple occasions and in various locations in Toronto, including 2 TTC stations in recent weeks. Toronto police say officers responded to a call for an assault that had just occurred at Jane Station, at Jane Street and Bloor Street West, around 5:50 p.m. on Monday. It is alleged that a female victim was assaulted by an unknown male suspect as she was leaving the station, police said in a statement released Wednesday, adding the same man then allegedly assaulted a second female as he was leaving the area. Officers arrived and arrested the suspect nearby, police said. The 2 victims suffered non-life-threatening injuries. Through their investigation, police allege the same man is responsible for several other assaults. On November 10, the man allegedly assaulted 1 female in the area of Yonge Street and Greenfield Avenue, north of Shepherd Avenue in North York, around 11:10 a.m. This same man also allegedly assaulted a female and stole property from her at Bathurst Station, at Bathurst Street and Bloor Street West, just after midnight on Monday. And he allegedly assaulted yet another female later that day, around 12:15 p.m., near Dufferin Street and Bloor Street West. All 3 of those females suffered non-life-threatening injuries, police said. They did not release the females' ages. Ayman Dia, of no fixed address, is charged with 4 counts of assault and 1 count of robbery. Police said investigators are concerned about the possibility of other alleged victims, so they have released images of the accused. He's described as 5'8" with a thin build. At the time of the assaults on Monday, he was wearing a black jacket with a ripped sleeve, gray hooded sweatshirt, black and red pants, and running shoes. Anyone with information regarding this investigation is urged to call police at 416-808-1100 or Crime Stoppers anonymously at 1-800-222-8477. There is a close-up picture of Ayman Dia, age 24. He has dark, maybe brown or black curly hair that's kind of long on top, big brown eyes, and a very faint mustache, and he's just looking straight at the camera. Photo courtesy of Toronto Police. That story was Man Accused of Unprovoked Attacks on 5 Females in Toronto by Chris Doucette. The next story is Quick Action Sought After Finch LRT's Slow Speed Complaints by Jane Stevenson. TTC Chairman and Toronto City Councillor Jamal Myers says he'll be addressing complaints from riders who have claimed slow travel times aboard the newly opened Finch West LRT, also known as Line 6. There's real work to be done to make sure it delivers the level of rapid transit we all expect, especially after spending $3.5 million to build the thing, Myers told reporters at a City Hall news conference Wednesday. Myers said he would be taking the complaints to a TTC board meeting later in the day. I'll be putting forward my 2 motions to ensure Line 6 and Line 5, the yet-to-open Eglinton LRT, and our entire streetcar network operate the way rapid transit should, which is, of course, fast, Myers said. Riders are right to expect better. Rapid transit must be rapid. If our LRTs move too slowly, riders will stay in their cars and congestion will worsen, and the billions of dollars invested in public transit will not deliver the expected results. This is unacceptable. Myers said his first motion is asking the TTC, the City of Toronto, Metrolinx, and the province to explore transit signal priority, higher service frequency, and review outdated policies that unnecessarily restrict LRT speeds on lines 5 and 6. These are all practical, achievable, near-term solutions. Why I'm optimistic is there is political will to get those things moving faster, Myers added. His second motion is in regards to streetcar speeds. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Toronto Sun on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. TTC streetcars, quote, slowest in the world. Our recent TTC car board review found that our TTC streetcars are, in fact, the slowest in the world. These changes do not require major construction, they simply require political will. We've been talking for decades about getting the streetcars moving faster. It's actually now happening, Myers said. It's expected that 50,000 riders will use the Finch LRT line daily, with 230,000 living in northwest Toronto and within walking distance of Line 6. When asked why these issues weren't worked out before the Finch LRT opened on Sunday, Myers responded, "There's a lot of should've, could've, would'ves, but I think right now we're just looking at the issues and we're getting it done." "We're not pointing fingers. We're not blaming anyone," he said. "Everybody understands that this needs to be done, and everybody is rowing in the same direction. The hope and the expectation is that the work that's being done on Line 6 will apply to Line 5, so a lot of these teething pains, shall I call them, will be skipped." Chow said Finch LRT can be faster. On Tuesday, Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow vowed to speak with both the TTC Board and Council about the slow service complaints regarding the Finch West LRT line. "The train is not as fast as it can be, absolutely, so I'm hearing the feedback," Chow told reporters. "I've ridden the train and I know it can be faster." TTC rider spokesperson Andrew Pulsifer, who rode the line himself on opening day, told the Toronto Sun on Tuesday he received reports that it took 50 minutes for riders to get from one end of the 10.3-kilometer line to the other, with buses sometimes passing the LRT. And on Monday, media outlets were reporting the trip took as long as 55 minutes during the morning rush hour. The first media advisory from Metrolinx dated September 20th, 2024, said it would be around 34 minutes, I believe, from one end to the other, which already in itself seemed a bit long, Pulsifer said. On Monday, a TTC spokesperson said the one end to the other end trip time in morning and afternoon rush hour was scheduled to be 46 minutes. That story was Quick Action Sought After Finch LRT's Slow Speed Complaints by Jane Stevenson. The next story is Sharon Osbourne reveals Ozzy's final words. He knew. He was ready. By Mark Daniel. Sharon Osbourne has revealed the last words her husband, Ozzy Osbourne, said to her on the day he died at the age of 76. The Black Sabbath legend shocked the music world when he died of a heart attack on July 22nd, 2 weeks after he took the stage for a farewell concert with his bandmates at Birmingham's Villa Park Soccer Stadium. On a new episode of Piers Morgan's Uncensored that has been viewed by the UK Sun, Sharon, 73, said that Ozzy had been up and down to the bathroom all night. "It was like 4:30 and he said, 'Wake up.' I said, 'I'm already bloody awake. You've woken me up,' Sharon says. And he said, 'Kiss me.' And then he said, 'Hug me tight.' I can't help wondering if I should have. Could I have? If only I'd have told him I loved him more. If only I had held him tighter. Sharon said that Ozzy went downstairs to do his daily workout when she heard yelling. He had a heart attack. I ran downstairs, and there he was, and they were trying to resuscitate him. And I'm like, don't, just leave him. Leave him. You can't. He's gone, she said. I knew instantly he'd gone. And they tried, and then they took him by helicopter to the hospital. And they tried, and it's like, he's gone. Just leave him. Doctors warned Ozzy not to perform gig. Sharon said that in the last weeks of Ozzy's life, he had been having visions and seeing people that he never knew. I said, well, what kind of people? He goes, all different people. And I just keep walking, and I'm seeing all these different people every night. And I go back there, and I'm looking at these people, and they're looking at me, and nobody's talking. And he knew. He was ready, she said. Ozzy returned to the stage for the Back to the Beginning concert in July in front of 40,000 fans and was joined by Black Sabbath bandmates Tony Iommi, Terence Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward. The show also featured performances by Anthrax, Metallica, and Guns N' Roses. I don't know what to say, man. I've been laid up for like 6 years. You have no idea how I feel. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, Ozzy said as he paid tribute to fans in Birmingham. You're all special. Let's go crazy, come on. But Sharon said that Ozzy's doctors cautioned him that he might not survive if he went ahead with the performance. He'd been so ill this year. Terribly, terribly ill. And when we came to England and we were meeting with his new doctors here, a new medical team for him, the main doctor said to him, if you do this show, that's it. You're not going to get through it, she said. We just sat there and he said, I'm doing it. I want to do it and I'm doing it. Ozzy had been stricken with pneumonia 3 times this year and also contracted sepsis, which Sharon said took its toll on his body. That's what really, really destroyed him. He was on these shots of antibiotics. It used to take 20 minutes for the shot to go in, and he had twice a day. And it kills everything in you, the good, the bad, everything. So much antibiotics, and he just couldn't get over that. He just couldn't, she said. The Rock and Roll Hall of Famer was determined to play to thank his fans for their years of support. He couldn't stand any more, so he had a custom-built throne for the show. He just wanted it so bad to say thank you to everyone, said Sharon. And I think he honestly did know that he was done, that this was his time. Afterwards, Sharon and Ozzy marveled at the coverage his farewell show received. He kept looking at the papers, and he goes to me, I never knew so many people liked me. But that was the way he was, she explained. I mean, he knew he was famous, but not the amount that people loved him. It's a whole different thing. And he was just so happy. So happy. And for 2 weeks, every day was sunshine for him. Really, really happy. Yeah, so happy. Happier than we'd seen him in 7 years. There is a picture of Sharon and Ozzy Osbourne as they pose for a portrait prior to hosting the 2008 Brit Awards in London. And Ozzy has really long brown hair that's dark. He is wearing tinted glasses that are kind of tinted a bluish gray. And he's halfway smiling, looking at the camera, and is positioned right behind Sharon's back. And she's wearing a gold metallic jacket, some gold necklaces, and she has spiky, dyed kind of dark red hair and nice makeup. Photo courtesy of Dave Hogan via Getty Images. That story was Sharon Osbourne reveals Ozzy's final words. He knew. He was ready. By Mark Danielle. The next story is Woman, 36, wanted for allegedly impersonating registered massage therapist by Chris Doucette. Toronto police say an investigation into two separate fraud cases, one that occurred near Church Street and Wellesley Street East, and the other in the area of Yonge Street and Hayden Street, south of Bloor Street East, was launched on July 18. It is alleged that between January 1 and May 30th, the suspect performed massage therapy treatments on clients and charged them for services rendered, either via cash payments or insurance claims, police said in a statement released Wednesday, explaining the woman allegedly collected, quote, salary wages from two separate businesses. During this time, the suspect was impersonating a current registered massage therapist in the province of Ontario, police alleged. Investigators subsequently identified a suspect, but they have yet to track her down. Sakatima Lishamois of Toronto is wanted for 17 counts of identity theft, 4 counts of possession of a forged passport, 4 counts of uttering a forged passport, 8 counts of possession of a counterfeit mark, 13 counts of possession of a forged document with intent, 13 counts of using a forged document, 3 counts of passive wares or services with intent to deceive or defraud, 1 count of assault, 3 counts of fraud exceeding $5,000, and 3 counts of possession of proceeds of property obtained by crime exceeding $5,000. She's described as 6 feet tall, with a slim build, black hair, and brown eyes. Investigators have released a photo of Lishamois, hoping members of the public can help locate her. Anyone with information regarding the whereabouts of the wanted woman is urged to call police at 416-808-5100 or Crime Stoppers anonymously at 1-800-222-8477. That story was Woman, 36, wanted for allegedly impersonating registered massage therapist by Chris Doucette. The next story is How Shane Bieber's Health Could Be Shaping Blue Jays Off-Season Pitching Plans by Rob Longley. Orlando, Florida. At the time, the decision Shane Bieber made to exercise his player option and remain with the Blue Jays for 2026 was met with elation by the team's fans and some head-scratching around baseball, wondering why the veteran cemented his plans so quickly. Was the afterglow of the Jays' amazing World Series run that powerful to make Bieber leave money on the table to return on a one-year deal? Was he banking on himself to further enhance his free agency status a year down the road? Turns out, as is often the case, there is more to the story. Jays general manager Ross Atkins hinted at concern when he spoke at the winter meetings, which wrap up here on Wednesday, when he noted that there is, quote, potential of Bieber not being 100% at the very start of the 2026 season. We'll be cognizant and make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep putting him in the most safe position possible, Atkins said. We're taking it kind of a week at a time at this point with Shane. Atkins didn't elaborate on the reasons for the team's cautious approach with respect to Bieber, but suggested there were some physical concerns at the end of the 2025 season that merited attention. But, as a source told the Toronto Sun recently, one perception floating around MLB was that Bieber opted on the quick decision, recognizing that he would have had to pass a physical from any team signing him before making such a deal official. With that in mind, how the 30-year-old progresses through the remainder of the winter, and how he feels when pitchers and catchers report to Dunedin for spring training in early February will tell a lot. For now, at least, being ready to be prominent in the rotation at the start of the season is the plan. I think that is a very realistic outcome, Atkins said when asked if the team expects Bieber to be ready for opening day. But all the things that I said about his health, kind of taking it week to week. Did Bieber's health affect his decision? Given the fact that he made a successful return from Tommy John surgery to pitch with the Jays down the stretch and into the postseason, it appeared that Bieber was poised to cash in via free agency this winter. Instead, he exercised his one-year option at $16 million to remain with the Jays, potentially leaving millions on the table in a long-term deal he likely would have fetched on the open market. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Toronto Sun on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Was health a part of that decision? Potentially, given Atkins' description of the wear and tear Bieber went through in his abbreviated but impressive 2025 work, in which he had a 3.57 ERA through 7 regular season starts, and a 3.86 ERA in his first 5 playoff appearances. What are the health concerns? The Athletic detailed the potential issue with Bieber's valuable right arm, reporting the specifics of what Atkins hinted at, that the former Cy Young Award winner was hampered by forearm fatigue. While declining to go into detail, Atkins was revealing enough in describing Bieber's condition prior to the Athletic reporting. He pitched a lot, and it's remarkable if you think about coming off the procedure, which is the Tommy John surgery in 2024. The magnitude of the innings, the magnitude of when he was competing and who we were competing against, and how stressful that was for him is remarkable, the GM said. What that means for the start of the 2026 remains to be seen. As cautious as he was in his wording, Atkins said that Bieber doesn't need any medical procedures. No, as of right now, he's in a strong position, Atkins said. I suppose as he starts to ramp up, we would consider some stagger and the potential of him not being ready for a full workload as the start of the season. On the rest of the rotation, and Trey Yesavage. Given the uncertainty of starting position and the never-ending quest for depth, Bieber's status isn't the reason the Jays have aggressively added arms this winter. But it doesn't hurt. Adding Dylan Cease to the giant 7-year, $210 million US deal was a big, bold move to start the off-season, and the Jays are quietly enthused with Cody Ponce, whose signing should become official once he clears a few administration details required for players shifting from the KBO back to North America. Which brings us to last year's rookie sensation, Trey Yesavage. After managing the 22-year-old's workload brilliantly through the season, as he motored through all 4 levels of the minor leagues before making his MLB debut in September, the Jays will be mindful of at least monitoring him in 2026. Every month matters, just as every day mattered last season, Atkins said. If you think of how much his career changed in a month and a half, and what the trajectory and expectations are, want to manage that the best way possible. We feel he has a good foundation, and someone we don't have to proactively limit. We're certainly planning for him to be a significant part of our team. There is a picture of Shane Bieber of the Toronto Blue Jays as he reacts during the World Series game against the LA Dodgers, and he is wearing a light blue jersey that says Blue Jays across his chest. It has a dark blue Nike logo, and he's also wearing a dark blue long-sleeved shirt underneath that. He's got a blue baseball cap on, and he is smiling, looking to the right while he has a baseball glove in his hand, and out of focus behind him there are lots of people in the crowd. Photo courtesy of Getty Images. That story was how Shane Bieber's health could be shaping Blue Jays' off-season pitching plans, by Rob Longley. The next story is Miss Switzerland finalist dismembered, husband charged by Brad Hunter. Switzerland is in shock following the grisly dismemberment murder of a former beauty queen, allegedly at the hands of her husband. Cops say that former Miss Switzerland finalist Kristina Joksimovic, 38, was also decapitated and her body parts pureed in a blender. Detectives have charged her husband, who allegedly dismembered his wife while watching YouTube videos. The murder occurred last year, but he was only charged on Tuesday. Her remains were discovered in Binningen near Basel, Switzerland. No date has been scheduled for a trial. The accused killer, identified only as Thomas due to Swiss privacy laws, admitted to strangling his wife to death long after she was found murdered in February 2024. Cops say that an autopsy revealed that a jigsaw, knife, and garden shears were used to dismember her body, leaving her decapitated. The body parts were then pureed in a hand blender before being dissolved in a chemical solution, according to the tabloid Blick. Dad found the remains. Joksimovic's horrified father found the remains after discovering blonde hair flowing out of a black bag in the laundry room of her home. Her dad had spent hours at the home without realizing the horrors that had been unleashed on his daughter, a mother of two. Sources told Blick that Thomas allegedly refused to give cops access to his encrypted phone, which they believe contains more evidence. The details of the investigation were horrific. In pretrial motions, investigators explained that Thomas had carefully removed Kristina's womb. It was the only organ removed from her torso. What the husband said. The court heard that the, quote, intentional mutilation or ritualized degradation of the body could indicate a mental disorder. Thomas reportedly told detectives that he killed his wife, quote, in a panic, as she approached him with a knife. His actions were the result of self-defense, he claimed. However, Swiss media outlet FM1 Today reported that the forensics report contradicts his description of self-defense. One detective revealed that the suspect demonstrated a lack of empathy and cold-bloodedness after killing his wife. In addition, there were considerable efforts to cover up the macabre slaughter. Friends of the model turned catwalk coach claimed the couple had been in crisis for months. Police had been called numerous times to the family home because of violent domestic disputes. Kristina, who had Serbian roots, won the Miss Northwest Switzerland competition and went on to be a finalist in the 2008 national competition. Planned to leave her partner? Just weeks before she was killed, Kristina posted pictures of a couple's getaway to Lake Lucerne on her Instagram account, along with her husband and kids. A source close to Joksimovic last year revealed that a possible motive for the killing was the mother of two planning to leave her businessman partner. She wanted to break up, but was afraid of him, the source told 20 Minutes. He reportedly claimed that he felt like he was getting into a tunnel due to his fear of losing his children, house, and company. Thomas claimed this fear stressed him out to the extent that he did not give himself time to reflect on his decisions and question his actions, while his control mechanisms were missing due to shock. There is a picture of Kristina from her Instagram page. She is standing with her hands on her hips. She's wearing black shiny latex kind of pants and a black shirt that has one long sleeve on it and then no sleeve on the other. Her blonde hair is kind of flipped to the side and is long and curly, and she's got a bracelet on her upper arm. Photo courtesy of Instagram. That story was Miss Switzerland finalist dismembered, husband charged by Brad Hunter. The next story is called Warmington. While Melody's life taken quickly, the wheels of justice move slowly, by Joe Warmington. While there can be a lot of unfairness experienced in life, it can be even worse in death. No one knows that more than families looking for justice in a courtroom. The man accused of dangerous driving that killed sweet Melody Zhu on the sidewalk in a horrific Oakville crash may not have been in court for his first appearance, but many of the 8-year-old girl's family and friends certainly were. They packed the small Milton courtroom, said family friend Anna Lopez. Many, including the little girl's father and both of her grandparents, were carrying pictures of the popular Oakville Hornets hockey player. They were not exactly thrilled with the process. Family stunned. "So incredibly quick," said Lopez. "The defense said they requested disclosure and need time to go through it. So they asked for a 12-week adjournment. And they got it. They did not even appear in person," said Lopez of Ajay Rana, 47, who faces 1 count of dangerous operation of a conveyance causing death. Even his lawyer did not show up in person. Said Lopez, his defense attorney was there virtually. The family members and supporters were not only there in person, but planned to be throughout the whole process. They assembled on the front lawn of the courthouse to take a picture so that the world understands that while the system may think of this little girl as nothing more than a statistic, she was precious to them. The way it seems now is Melody is nothing more than a court docket file number. She's far more than that to her family. They also saw in person that there obviously is no hurry to proceed with the case. The alleged speed in which young pianist was killed is not matched with the speed of the justice system. A court on Tuesday pushed off the next court appearance for the man accused of this horrific story until March 3rd of next year. No matter what date they choose, Melody won't be there. Nothing is bringing her back. While the court breaks for the holidays, this family will have to suffer through Christmas without their precious Melody. Melody was killed on scooter and mob hurt badly. Melody, who was on her scooter, died, and her mother suffered major injuries on November 6 when, according to police, a Lexus SUV careened off the road on the North Service Road in Oakville and struck them both. Police didn't take Rana into custody at the time, but directed him to make his first appearance more than a month later. He doesn't have to make his second appearance for around 2.5 months. Rana is innocent until proven guilty. The charge against him from Halton Regional Police has not yet been tested in court. He has a right to a fair trial. Family should have rights too. But the family should have some rights too. They need to hear every part of this case in a reasonable amount of time. It should not take months or even years for something like this to be dealt with. This is painful for them. Mom Wei Hong Gao, still recovering from many broken bones, was not in attendance. She has been unable to work while Melody's dad, Hao Zhu, is home now looking after their son, 3-year-old Aiden. While friends and family made no formal rebuke on the pace of the court process Wednesday, it's clear they plan to stick up for Melody, who is not around to fight for herself anymore. The community has also raised more than $260,000 on GoFundMe to help the family through this ordeal. The case provides an example of how this all works, and it's not in favor of the victim. The system may indeed over time forget about Melody. But those people who went to the Milton court Wednesday insist they won't. There is a black and white picture of Melody Zhu. It says, "In loving memory, 2017 through 2025. And she has black hair that's pulled back, and she's wearing an Oakville hockey kind of jersey and is holding a hockey stick and has very big gloves on. She's really, really cute. Photo courtesy of Facebook. That story was Warmington. While Melody's life taken quickly, the wheels of justice move slowly. By Joe Warmington. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Toronto Sun on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The next story is U.S. plans to order foreign tourists to disclose social media histories, published by the AFP. Washington, United States. The administration of U.S. President Donald Trump plans to order visa-exempt foreign tourists to disclose their social media histories from the last 5 years before entering the country, according to an official notice. The proposal, laid out in a notice published Tuesday in the Federal Register, would apply to visitors from 42 countries, including Britain, France, Australia, and Japan, who do not need a visa to enter the United States. Currently, those travelers only need apply for a waiver known as the Electronic System for Travel Authorization, or ESTA, which still requires them to provide certain personal details. Under the proposed new rules, the collection of social media data would become a mandatory part of ESTA applications. Applicants would need to provide their social media histories from the last 5 years, according to the notice. They would also have to submit other, quote, high-value data fields, including phone numbers from the last 5 years, email addresses from the past decade, personal details of family members, and biometric information. The public has 60 days to comment on the proposal. The Trump administration has tightened curbs on entering the United States, part of a sweeping crackdown on migration. Along with Mexico and Canada, the country will host the 2026 World Cup, which is certain to attract large numbers of soccer fans from across the world. The next story is, most Canadians have dismal outlook for 2026, poll finds, by Brian Pacifiume. Ottawa. In the face of skyrocketing housing costs and Canada's ongoing cost of living crisis, lower-income Canadians are struggling to have a Merry Christmas. And 3 in 5 Canadians say they don't expect things to get better come the new year, according to a new Angus Reid poll. When asked if respondents were better off financially than they were a year ago, 47% said they're about the same as they were a year ago, up from 42% at the same time last year. 36% said their financial situation became worse in 2025, down slightly from 37% at the end of 2024. Fewer people from last year reported their financial situation had improved, down from 18% in 2024 to 15% at the end of 2025. In all, most respondents, 37%, rated low on Angus Reid's, quote, financial pressure index, reporting stable working lives, relatively stable outlooks for 2026, and management housing costs. 19% rated, quote, medium on the index, while 22% rated high and 23% rated very low. How the index works. The index measures economic outlook across 8 variables, including employment status, job security, state of household finances, cost of living and food costs, and the manageability of bills. In a 2025 marked by trade and economic turmoil with the United States, cost of living remains the top concern of Canadians, with 59% identifying it as their top issue. This ranked well ahead of healthcare, 41%, cost of housing, 26%, and the state of the economy, 23%. Only 17% identified government spending as their top concern, followed by income inequality, 16%, taxes, 13%, and unemployment, 12%. When asked if they think they'll be better off financially a year from now, a little over a quarter said they expect to be worse off, while 45% expect things to stay the same, and only 20% say they'll fare better in the next year. Except for those who expect improvements, a cohort that fell from 22% a year ago, this year's results were the same as last year, where 45% said they don't expect change and 26% expected a worse year ahead. Those numbers change with those with high financial pressures, with 59% expecting 2026 to be worse, 23% expecting more of the same, and just 6% saying their situation will improve in the coming year. Food security remains a concern. As for the grocery store, about a quarter of lower-income respondents said feeding their households is very difficult, with 37% describing it as difficult and just 30% saying putting food on the table was, quote, easy. Those prospects aren't expected to get better, with 2026 promising even higher food prices. Among households earning between $50,000 to $100,000 annually, only 7% reported feeding their households as, quote, very difficult, 37% saying difficult, and 45% reporting easy. The poll was conducted among 4,025 Canadian adults between November 26 and December 1 via the Angus Reid Forum. As margins of error don't apply to online panels, a comparable sample size would yield a margin of plus 1.5%, 19 times out of 20. That story was, most Canadians have dismal outlook for 2026, poll finds, by Brian Pacifiume. The next story is, Alberta Clipper dumps heavy, wet snow on GTA, Southern Ontario, by Spiro Papukowski. An Alberta Clipper created scenes of a winter wonderland in Toronto and the rest of Southern Ontario, making travel for commuters on snowy and slushy roads an absolute mess Wednesday morning. Snow began to fall in the overnight hours Wednesday, as Environment Canada continued its snowfall warning into the morning. The snow is expected to taper to scattered flurries or drizzle from southwest to northeast this afternoon, says the Environment Canada advisory. Lesser snowfall amounts are expected near the Ontario Lake Shore, where a transition to rain or rain-snow mix is expected. Road conditions were slippery for many drivers as Ontario Provincial Police said approximately 150 collisions had occurred in the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area since 5 a.m. Police said there were no serious injuries. The OPP's Highway Safety Division also reminded highway commuters to stay behind snowplow operations, as it is illegal to pass while multiple lanes are being cleared. Travel will likely be challenging, Environment Canada said. Roads and walkways will likely be difficult to navigate due to accumulating snow. There may be a significant impact on rush hour traffic. Visibility will likely be reduced at times. Prepare for quickly changing and deteriorating travel conditions. Allow extra time for travel. In Toronto, one area of the city reportedly received at least 10 centimeters of snow throughout the morning, and 17 centimeters total since Tuesday, according to local weather enthusiasts Forecast Office Toronto. North of the city, a Bradford resident shared images on social media of the thick accumulation of the white stuff outside their home, as snow squalls are expected for Simcoe County, including Barrie and Wasaga Beach, for Wednesday night through Thursday. A snow squall alert said local snowfall amounts could range from 30 to 50 centimeters, and warned of significantly reduced visibility in heavy snow and local blowing snow. Consider rescheduling travel and outdoor activities, Environment Canada said. Prepare for possible disruptions to transportation, services, and utilities. In Kitchener, Rob Kuhn, a meteorologist with Environment Canada's Ontario Storm Prediction Centre, measured 16 centimeters of fresh snow had landed in the city. There are two pictures that Rob Kuhn posted to X. There is one that is looking out from the side of his house onto his deck, and there are chairs and a table that have piles of snow on them, and the trees in the distance are snow covered as well. And the other photo is of a chain link fence that is completely laden with snow. And that is courtesy of X. There is another post on X from the OPP Highway Safety Division, and there are 4 pictures there of vehicles that have had accidents on the road with the snow. There are 2 really big travel trailer trucks that are on their sides. One, you can see there's an ambulance off to the left, and then there's a van that's also on its side, and you could see that a ladder has fallen off. And then there's one more car that looks upright but has been munched. It's amazing that nobody's gotten hurt. A photo courtesy of X. That story was Alberta Clipper Dumps Heavy Wet Snow on GTA, Southern Ontario, by Spiro Papakowski. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the December 10, 2025 issue of the Toronto Sun. Your reader has been Melanie Guralnick. Thank you for listening.